So this is another thing, is that I just have a speculation or a theory that there's more than one NHI visiting here. Some of them are probably of a physical nuts and bolts nature, and at least one is probably of a non-physical nature, whether it's some sort of a plasmoid life form, or maybe the plasmoids are really like a telepresence unit. It's like an Imperial probe droid, and so it's not intelligent. It's not it's not conscious necessarily, but it functions as like a transmission unit, through multiple dimensions or whatever. So there are things that are physical, and maybe things that, like, the moment you turn them off, they just stop existing in this space-time continuum. They just go away. They just phase out. There could be things like that. Even among nuts and bolts phenomena, I think there could be multiple stages of technological evolution. So you look at stories of the Roswell craft, talk about it looking like a manta ray, like it having an
Yeah.
aerodynamic shape, like a
Yeah.
normal vehicle. And I think there's stories about like a nuclear reactor being split open, and there was like plutonium on the ground or something, or uranium dust or something. And so that's like the really approachable plus 50 years, plus 100 years. So I often wonder, like, maybe there's a type of vehicle, you cut it open and it looks really approachable, like a nuclear reactor and maybe a jet
Sure.
engine or something really prosaic. And then there's one that you cut open and you say, okay, that looks like a fusion reactor, that looks like some kind of laser instrumentation, and that might be a quantum computer. You have words for these things, even if you don't know how they work, even if it would
Sure.
take you decades to be able to reproduce them. And then
Sure.
maybe there's a third thing that you open it up and it like spills out spaghetti looking tubules of stuff, and
Yeah.
you don't even recognize pieces. Like, you don't even know where to
Sure.
start. And I
Sure.
think that's probably something that's gone on. Is there's different technology trees, is one of the terms I use. Is there's like different civilizations that are using different technologies, and some of them
100%.
have been reasonably approachable, and others are like really mysterious. I
Yeah.
I've come around. Instead of debating with myself whether I think FTL is possible, now I'm trying to figure out if I think there's more than one way to do it, actually.
Yeah. I mean, I just can't imagine that there's I can't imagine that limits actually exist, period. It's just any limit of anything. Like, there's always a way to push past. You just don't have enough time or energy to make it happen. But whatever that limit is, that there has to be, because that's such an odd thing for there to just be a wall, and it can't point one go past it. Like, that seems so odd about anything, whether it be travel, the end of the universe. Like, what happened? You get to the end of it, there's just a wall. Like, what is this? Doesn't make any sense. That anything. I feel like there's always a way to get past whatever that limit, given enough time and energy. And I love
Sure.
that you're thinking that way. And I can't imagine what technology would look like 50,000, a million years in the future, right? What's that famous quote? Like, we don't even know what questions to ask. I don't know who said that. There was
Right.
something along
Right.
those lines. You know what I'm talking about? Like, we don't even know
And
where to start
there's
to
one
ask
that's
the
like
questions.
significantly advanced. Yeah, sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic,
Yeah,
effectively.
100%.
And I've had conversations in spaces where one of the questions I think is interesting about trying to figure out the number of NHI potentially interacting with us is that we have to look around at the universe and start looking at the Drake equation and things that go into the Drake equation. And we think about the fact that, okay, there could be so many planets and so many opportunities for a civilization to arise. Well, now we're realizing that any one given planet probably has multiple opportunities for civilizations to arise. And so I think the ultra terrestrial hypothesis is not silly. It's very reasonable. There's a certain point at which I think I've called an archaeological horizon, beyond which there potentially could have been another civilization on this planet and there wouldn't be any evidence left of it. And I think
Yeah,
that number is somewhere north of 10 million years, maybe 100 million years. It's
sure.
probably more than 5 million years, but where their evidence of their existence could be totally gone. And you could even make the argument that a sufficiently advanced civilization will realize that they need to clean up after themselves, and they would develop some kind of nanobots that would coat the planet and pick up all the microplastics and pick up all the e-waste and dispose of it in some novel way. And then there'd really be no evidence they were ever there, because microplastics and e-waste tend to be the kinds of things that have kind of gotten down into the soil and all that kind of thing. But
Sure.
this arrives at an interesting place where we have to ask ourselves, how long does technology get developed? What's the death of technology? Like, how many
Sure.
thousands or millions of years before there's just nothing left? Because there's
Correct.
kind of got to be a physical limit on how much you can manipulate this reality. It can't be infinite. I mean, you could maybe get to the point where you can leave it and you can go make your own, but again, that's not more advancement here necessarily. So there
Yeah.
might be a horizon beyond. So
See, I
like
don't think
I'm not
so.
convinced
But you're
that.
smarter than me.
So
I just that's why I
well,
don't
this is
believe in
one of the
those
arguments that
limits. Like
people
it has
disagree
to
with me a
be
lot on this,
go.
actually.
Like how can it not just keep
Yeah.
going? Like what you stop it just stop. I mean, that would be like saying that there's finite knowledge and eventually you'll just know everything. I just don't believe in that. But again, I don't know anything.
Well, it doesn't necessarily imply that you'll know everything, but that you'll have complete mastery over the root, over the source code.
Sure.
I mean, I guess if the fidelity of the internet going, or I'm sorry, the internet, the fidelity of the universe going down to, Larry Reed's model from quantum wave mechanics talks about Planck mass dipoles. That's like his quantum foam in his model. So whatever that minimum fundamental structure of the universe is, the moment you arrive at that and you can engineer it and you can manipulate it to an extreme degree, you're kind of done. Like, what else are you gonna manipulate exactly? Like, after that, it's all engineering, right? There's no more convoluted. There's no more
I
depth,
see
and
what
so
you mean.
I just think this is interesting. This is interesting question, meaning what given a societally optimal environment where you don't have the dark ages or something, how
Sure.
many hundreds or thousands of years left of this pace of technological development do we actually have? Do you think
That's
it's
fair.
500? Do you think it's
Yeah.
50,000? Do you think it's a million? Do you think it's a billion? I don't think it's a
Yeah.
billion. I think it's maybe around 20,000. Maybe.
Sure.
I don't know. I don't know.
That's interesting, and that's an interesting conversation. I could pull that thread for a long time because I would almost put it at
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
how Michio Kaku, like, and others, I guess, have put like the Cardiff scale. Okay, technological type 1 and type 2. Okay, and it's all
Right.
about harnessing
Right.
energy. So let's assume you harness all the power of the universe, right? That's it? That's the end. But if there's more than that, then you could harness more than the whole universe, right? And if it keeps
Right.
expanding, then that means it keeps growing. Would that mean there's more energy, and wouldn't energy be more be created here and there? There's more to harness. I think
Right.
I can't imagine that there's black and white. That it always has to be a gray line. So even if you think you reached a limit, wouldn't it be a gray gradient where maybe there is a little bit more you can push, right? Maybe there's just a tad bit more to go further on whatever that thing is. And
Right.
I think you're
Right.
right about
Right.
engineering, and I don't know. It's what a fascinating thought to have.